4:02 in the morning. The Strait of Hormuz was pitch black until 12 unknown contacts lit up the radar aboard the USS Spruance like a cold slap across the face. 47 seconds from a collision that could have dragged the entire world into war. And Tehran, they had absolutely no idea they'd just kicked the hornet's nest, triggering a response the US had been sitting on for a very long time. Here's what actually went down during those 38 seconds that changed everything. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just a stretch of water, it's the jugular vein of the global economy. 20% of the world's oil, trillions of dollars in energy, squeezing through that narrow channel every single day. Under the Trump administration's economic pressure campaign designed to strangle Iran's finances, the US Navy had effectively turned that waterway into a floating steel fortress. For the crew of the USS Spruance, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer built by General Dynamics, it started like any other Tuesday. Humid air, quiet professionalism, routine patrol, enforcing a peace that Tehran was growing increasingly desperate to break. For 72 hours leading up to this moment, Iran's Ghost Fleet had been poking and prodding, running AIS spoofing operations, flooding American radar screens with phantom signals, testing reflexes. Tehran was looking for a trump card. They thought they'd found one. 4:05 a.m. The quiet shatters. A formation of IRGC fast attack boats surges out of the darkness at 30 knots, boring straight toward the Spruance on an intercept course. To fool Lockheed Martin's Aegis combat system, they killed their real AIS transponders and spoofed themselves as neutral merchant traffic, a calculated gamble. Stern warnings went out over Link 16. Dead silence came back. No acknowledgement, no course change. 4:08 a.m. The boats kept coming, tearing through every rule of maritime engagement. 4 minutes to the kill zone. The question hanging over the bridge, is this a reckless mistake or the opening move of something much bigger? Bless their hearts. Tehran thought they were playing chess on open water. They forgot the US Navy doesn't just play chess, it owns the board. 4:09 a.m. While every eye on the Spruance's bridge was locked on those surface contacts closing fast, Aegis quietly triggered an independent Level 1 red alert. This was no longer a surface skirmish. 40 minutes earlier, mobile launchers buried inside the Musandam Peninsula had released a swarm of Shahed 136 loitering munitions. Cheap suicide drones skimming the waves at less than 100 feet, hugging the surface to stay off radar. Tehran's plan was genuinely clever. Speedboats on the water, zombie ships broadcasting fake signals, total chaos below. While the real killing blow streamed silently through the sky. Distract the Americans with the circus on the surface, hit them from the air while they're looking down. But the USS Spruance isn't a standalone warship. It's a node in a digital kill network that Iran simply cannot cut. The destroyer's combat center immediately linked up with Northrop Grumman's E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, airborne out of the USS Abraham Lincoln, operating in the Gulf of Oman at 25,000 feet. The Hawkeye's UHF radar cut straight through the ghost signals and fed clean targeting data directly back to the Spruance. 4:15 a.m. 4 Boeing F/A-18E/F. Super Hornets, off the Lincoln's deck less than 90 seconds earlier, dove into the fight. Raytheon's APG-79A ESA radar gave their pilots a crystal-clear picture. 11 Shahed drones were destroyed in exactly 47 seconds. For just a moment, it looked like the threat was finished. 4:19 a.m. It wasn't. The moment that last drone hit the water, Tehran flipped the switch on the real trap. From coastal facilities at Bandar Abbas, a massive electronic jamming wall came online. Upgraded hardware fusing Russian and Chinese technology into something genuinely formidable. At the same instant, 6 Noor anti-ship missiles, an improved C-802 variant, launched from fixed positions on Keshem Island. Mach 0.9, wave skimming, inches above the surface. The Aegis display on the Spruance started flickering. Data links to the Hawkeye degraded under the electromagnetic assault. 180 seconds on the clock. A billion-dollar destroyer, blinded and isolated with 6 warheads inbound. Poor them. They actually thought that was the knockout punch. 4:22 a.m., a Boeing EA-18G Growler screamed off the Lincoln's deck and pushed straight to afterburner. Carrying Raytheon's next-generation jamming systems, the Growler went on the offensive, spoof jamming, point jamming, bouncing Iran's own electronic wall back at them. The blinder got blinded. A digital breach opened in the chaos. 4:25 a.m. With data links partially restored, the two remaining Super Hornets switched to air-to-air targeting and fired a salvo of AIM-120 AMRAAMs at the incoming Noors from standoff range. Simultaneously, the Spruance's Mark 41 vertical launching system fired Lockheed Martin SM-2 Block 3A interceptors. Raytheon's Phalanx CIWS spun up, that 20mm Gatling gun cycling its barrels, sweeping for anything that punched through the outer layers. What followed was 38 seconds of controlled violence. 3 Noor missiles torn apart by AMRAAMs and SM-2s. 2 more chased decoys from the Growler straight into the ocean. The 6th, the one that almost made it, was shredded by Phalanx Tungsten at 500 yards. 4:32 a.m. Aegis was still clearing static. Firepower reserves were down. The crew had taken a hit to tactical awareness that lasted just over a minute, but the Spruance was still in the fight. And Tehran still had one more card on the table, rising silently from beneath the water. 4:35 a.m. Adrenaline from the air battle hadn't even settled when a new threat materialized. A Ghadir-class mini-submarine, Iran's Marine Industries Organization's quiet little predator, had been sitting in the Strait's shallow 80-foot waters for over 48 hours. Running purely on battery power to eliminate every acoustic signature, it was essentially invisible to conventional hull-mounted sonar. 4:38 a.m. The Ghadir surfaced to periscope depth for 30 seconds, just long enough to calculate its fire solution. 4 smart mines with magnetic and acoustic triggers, 2 U-3 torpedoes, range 1,200 meters, point blank by any naval standard. Iran's bet was that the Spruance's sonar crews were still deaf from the explosions and electronic interference. They were wrong. 4:40 a.m. A Boeing P-8 Poseidon out of Al Dhafra Air Base caught the periscope breaking the surface and immediately dropped 12 Raytheon sonobuoys, laying a sonic barrier across the area. A Sikorsky MH-60R Seahawk, airborne from the Spruance's own deck just 50 seconds earlier, deployed a towed sonar array and locked onto the Ghadir's hull. And then the thing Tehran never saw coming revealed itself, rising silently from a deep water trench, Boeing's Orca XLUUV. An extra-large unmanned underwater vehicle that had been sitting there for days, watching the Ghadir's every move. The Orca fed precise, real-time coordinates to the Seahawk. The pilot didn't hesitate. 1 Raytheon Mark 54 lightweight torpedo. The underwater threat was neutralized in 2 minutes and 12 seconds flat. They thought the deep water was their friend. In this ocean, the darkness works for us. 4:50 a.m. Tehran had played every card. Drones burning on the surface, missiles in pieces, submarine neutralized. The commander aboard the Spruance gave his next order with the calm of someone who'd already won. Quote 0. The Growler went to full power on its next-generation jammer. Not defensive anymore. Strategic suppression. Every Iranian coastal radar from Bandar Abbas to Keshm Island went dark. Shore-to-ship communications collapsed into static. Their electronic wall wasn't just breached, it was erased. 4:53 a.m. The E-2D Hawkeye restored full data links. Aegis came back to complete auto mode, sharper than before. The last 2 Super Hornets swept the airspace and cleaned up the 3 remaining Shahed drones drifting without guidance. Lost vultures looking for a fight that was already over. Red icons on the Spruance's combat display disappeared one by one. The IRGC fast attack boats, watching their air support, their missiles, and their submarine all vanish, broke off and ran for Iranian territorial waters. 4:55 a.m. The Spruance, not a scratch. Tension on the bridge dissolving into the quiet professionalism of a crew that had just executed a perfect defense across 3 domains simultaneously. For Tehran, a catastrophic strategic failure. For the U.S. Navy, Just another Tuesday, 4:58 a.m. But the Navy wasn't finished. The commander issued his final orders. Below the surface, the Orca XLUUV shifted roles from hunter to coordinator, transmitting real-time targeting data to the entire strike group. 5:05 a.m. The USS Abraham Lincoln began maximum launch operations in the Gulf of Oman. The pre-dawn quiet broke under the combined roar of Boeing F/A-18, E/F Super Hornets, and Lockheed Martin F-35C Lightning IIs lifting off in sequence. 5:15 a.m. IRGC commanders ordered a full retreat. They pulled back into the shadows of Bandar Abbas, leaving behind burning wreckage, failed technology, and a shattered reputation. The gamble to crack America's economic chokehold on Iran ended in the worst possible way for Tehran. Combat alert levels on the Spruance came down. To the outside world, a 47-minute crisis that could have started a global war. To the crew of that General Dynamics destroyer, just another ordinary Tuesday. Tehran built what they thought was the most sophisticated ambush in the Strait's history. They forgot one fundamental truth. The U.S. Navy doesn't just protect the oil lanes, it owns the battlefield, sky, surface, and every dark corner of the ocean floor. This isn't just a victory, it's a message. To every adversary, in every theater, on every body of water on this planet, don't test the Eagle when it's standing watch over the world's most critical choke point. Hit like if you stand with the men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces. Drop ___, quote __1 _ in the comments if you want part 2, covering the classified technology inside the Orca XLUUV. And remember, this story isn't just about the Strait of Hormuz. It's for anyone, anywhere who thinks they can go toe-to-toe with the United States Navy.